He separates. He's to the 20, to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Florida State. Warwick got on third down.
Winky looking Winky. Wants to throw the knockout punch to Warwick. Warwick open. Touchdown. He does a touchdown. He did catch it. Touchdown, Florida State. Oh, Peter Warwick, how'd you do that?
Kermit Whitfield to the left side. A hole to the 30. Kermit Whitfield 30 to the 20. 15, 10, 5. Touchdown FSU. Kermit Whitfield. A 100-yard touchdown.
Here's the snap. Winston rolling right. Throws the pass on the other.
It's caught. It's caught. It's caught. Touchdown FSU. Kelvin Benjamin.
We're doing it for everybody. We're doing it big all over the country, all over the world. And I'm proud. I'm proud to say I'm a Florida State Seminole.
This is the Garnet Old podcast with your hosts, Ryan Eastman and Vince Ciccarelli. Welcome to another episode of the Garnet and Old podcast. Vince, how's it going?
It's going great, Ryan. We missed you during the last broadcast. I had Gabby come on and do the show with me. I think she did a pretty good job. Got a lot of good feedback from her. But I'm happy to have you back, Ryan. How was your cruise?
Cruise was fantastic. A lot of good times. Some would say I'm still living the cruise life. I have my nice red wine here, keeping it classy for the night, as it were. Yeah, no, it was really fun. We had family with us, so that's always even better. You get to see family reunion with everyone. So I had a great time. Better time than Florida State had while I was gone, but still a really, really overall good time. I had a great time.
Sorry about that. Yeah, you missed some good times there, Ryan. But I think you had some good times. So here we are in the bye week, just wrapping up the bye week. And we got quite a bit to talk about with that. We also have quite a bit to talk about with the upcoming game. But the first thing I want to bring up, Ryan, is before the losses started to mount, we had a discussion about you were wanting to dream. You wanted to dream a little bit, right? You wanted to dream and see what could happen. And now that we are, 4-3, I want to say, Ryan, we are still on track. We're still on track for this season. But we probably, before we end this show tonight, I want to kind of reassess, and I want to get your opinion on where you think we're going to close out the season. So the bye week is the perfect time to kind of reassess.
Let's say it this way, Vince. The dreaming part of it. I mean, in all fairness, they gave us reason to believe for 4 games in a row. So it was one of those things you get caught up in the heat of the moment, to steal a line from Asia. You get caught up in the moment of winning and not being used to winning against decent teams. And so the good news is everything that we originally predicted preseason is still on the table. You went 8 wins. I went 9 wins. I don't see it as an impossibility that we run the table based on the teams that are left on our schedule. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
Let's save that. Let's save that.
But it's definitely one of those things that, looking back on the 4-0 start, it's a good thing we did go 4-0, because it imagine last season if we had gone 0-4 and then hit this stretch. Well, now we'd be really in a problem, right? We'd be 0-7.
So we would be in the jackpot. We'd be in the jackpot.
4-0.
Did you not hear me? I guess you couldn't hear me. I said we're in the jackpot. We would have been in the jackpot. But
we bought ourselves a few weeks.
Right. When we started the season 4-0, it buys us some leverage for this last 3 games. And I'm still a little bit upset that we let the NC State game get away. That's the only one of the 3 that I kind of go, man, that one we had. But the other 2. But anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about the bye week. What have you heard? What have you seen?
We're getting healthy.
First thing on my list, getting healthy.
So Fabian Lovett, we all know, is a huge part of what we planned on being part of this roster this year. I mean, we expected Fabian to be one of the top 5 players probably on the whole team as far as contributors this year, and we haven't had him since LSU. And so the rumors and pretty much confirmed based on his practice reps, he's going to play this weekend, which is great news. And then, kind of waiting on, we don't know for sure when we're going to get another wide receiver added out there, right? It could happen at any moment. It really just depends on, I think we're not hurting at wide receiver right now. There's not an urgency to try to rush someone back from injury because, and help me with the name, Vince. It's escaping me. Winston Wright. He plays a slot position. Well, right now in slot position, we have Micah Pittman and now Ja'Kai Douglas is back. So
correct.
If we were rolling out the guys from last year and Winston Wright was 70%, we might have said, all right, let's go. Let's get it. But I almost feel like what they want to do is keep him 3 games or less.
Yep.
To save a year of eligibility.
Yep. If we can accomplish what needs to be accomplished for the rest of this season and keep him under the 4 games, I think that's what they would want to do. And I think that's what he would want to do too. I mean, you don't want to burn that whole season, missing, 70% of the season. He's not on his way out the door. Right. So I agree with you on that. I think if they can hold him out as long as they can, I think they're going to do it. And it makes next year, even more looking forward to that as far as the wide receiver group is concerned, because who's graduating from that group?
We're only people that we probably don't hear a lot about. Some of the holdovers from the old era that, I mean, hey, we're happy they're a part of the program, but there's
Absolutely.
a reason you haven't heard a lot about them this year anymore.
Yeah.
So I mean, all the guys that we have right now, everyone from Winston Wright to Ja'Kai Douglas to Malik McLean and Johnny Wilson. If you like to dream as I do, you see we're only losing Dylan Gibbons probably on the offensive line this year. And all those wide receivers and offensive line come back from a line that was already improved. You got to feel pretty good with that group going into next year. I mean, you just do.
I do. And I also feel, you think about like if this were like last year or the year before, think about we forget about the offensive linemen that we brought in as high schoolers. Those guys would have already been taking their lumps, which is not always the best plan. Right.
Yeah.
But this year, because of what we have and the depth that we have, which isn't great depth, but it's more than we've had, those guys haven't been thrown into the fire. They're getting a chance to develop their bodies and get used to Division I practice and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, keeping Winston Wright out. I mean, although I'd love to see him, right? I'd love to see him play. If in the grand scheme of things, the difference between 8-4 and 9-3, is he going to make that difference? I don't know. But the other one is that when you talk about is Trayshawn Ward.
Yeah, that's a little bit more questionable.
Yeah.
I think
he's on the depth chart, Ryan.
He is, but a lot of people have been on the depth chart all year that I've not yet seen play. My biggest question is, and this is a gut feeling, you have a bye week at this part of the season. I think we both know, and we're going to get into Georgia Tech in a little bit, pretty much a must-win game. If Mike Norvell loses against Georgia Tech, I think we have a different conversation next week, but we'll get into that. The real question I have is, are we going to see Thomas out there? Azari Thomas out there, playing more? Are we going to see Julian Armella start getting some reps out there? These are the kind of questions where if you're going to make, give some really talented players some reps, this is around the time of the year when you have a bye week where you can see how they did in practice and maybe see if they can make their way on field. Because all I hear from Julian Armella in practice is that, he's a hoss and he can move, and we sure do like to do those long outside runs, and my man can get outside quick. So, and we're not playing any more Clemson defensive lines this year, which is a good thing, right? And we were able to run on Clemson.
We were, so amazingly better than anybody for years.
some different players out there. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so, because you can withstand some of the mistakes they're going to make against a Georgia Tech or a Louisiana. Hopefully, yeah, hopefully. Julian's already played in a game or two this season already, I believe, and I think AZ has as well. So I don't know if that matters to them, but those guys are, they're not your typical freshmen. They're able to make an impact, even though it may be small this season. They're able to make an impact in their freshman year, which a lot of those guys aren't.
For sure. And I'm just thinking out loud here, like we're not playing any more dominant defensive lines the rest of the year. I mean, you're talking about a whole lot of teams on our schedule that they haven't been able to stop anyone. Now, some of their offenses that we still have to play are pretty decent, but as far as like I think Georgia Tech's defense is probably the best defense left on the schedule, which is interesting. I like Syracuse. Okay. They play decent defense, and we'll get into game by game when that game comes up, but there's no more Clemsons. There's no more LSUs. That level of talent where we have a bunch of 5-stars lining against our 3 and 4-star mainly players, that time's over. We're going to be playing a whole lot of teams that we are equal or more talented to in those positions.
Right. And, hopefully they've, the lessons they learned and they've grown through those tough lines that they've had to play, and they're able to put it together and, heaven forbid, dominate a lesser line, or dominate or play above their level against an equal line. And it's possible. It's possible.
Before we get into our Georgia Tech pregame, which is, on the mind, of course, this week, I just want to have a little fun. And this is 5 minutes at most.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't know where you're going here. Are we going to talk about recruiting at all?
No. Well, we can.
Well, I want to mention a couple things, but go ahead.
Let's talk about, hey, we aren't, it's not like we're getting blown off the field. We're close. We can, a couple plays here and there. Let's talk about Jimbo Fisher for a second. Because
yeah, I can read your mind. I have it on my list.
We are not over the moon about being 4-3. We're not devastated or disappointed, but we're not like, man, 4-3, sweet, right? And Miami's not happy, with their 3-4 record. You talk about a fan base and just a coach not being happy with 3-4, and I have a lot of FSU fans relish and maybe for good reasons, seeing Jimbo struggle. But you're talking about things going down quick, and today he announced that he's permanently suspending 3 true freshmen, 2 of which are 5-stars.
That's right.
The portal's about to open up, Vince.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. I mean, I read the same things you read. Nobody's telling me, because we didn't mention this, but Garnet Old, no inside info, no contacts, no problem. I've been reading the same things and seeing the same things. We saw a culture problem at the end of his tenure here, and it's not about like the talent that he brought in. It's about keeping the team together. What a circus that's going on there. And whenever anybody asks me, what do I think about Jimbo, I always kind of answer the same way. It's like, he came in, he did what he needed to do for a while, got a generational quarterback to run his system, and he won a title. And then he left. And before he left, he didn't do his job for about 1.5 years. So thank you for the title. No, thank you for the train wreck you created on the way out the door. So I don't have no love lost, with what's going on there with him. And it's interesting, when he left, we all said the same thing to Texas A&M fans. You've read the message boards, and they were all just like, Texas, he's going to come here because we got all the money, and FSU is a poverty school and all this other stuff. And if you paid attention to the program, you almost, even though you knew it was going to be rough for a while, it was already getting rough. You almost like, it was like lifted that weight off of our shoulders that contract was not on us now. But it took this amount of time to be able to look back on it and go, yeah, we were right thinking that. Because let me tell you about being handcuffed. Now, I know they could pay this money. I mean, got all the oil money and everything, but that money is all guaranteed. That money is all guaranteed.
Kiss my out on Main Street,
It's not even the type of contract where, if you go to a new job, they subtract your new salary off of your old salary. I mean, all that money is guaranteed. He could be double dipping, So
I would too.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you can be mediocre. If you can put out mediocre results and make that kind of money. This is not the Jimbo show, though.
The last thing I'll say about it, aside from I did hear a funny joke where someone said when he gets that buyout and ends up on a beach somewhere, he'll say, "It's not your tie, it's my tie drink." That's a good one.
Yeah, he's going to be. That's right. He's going to be at the beach house with what's his name that he co-owns with the old Florida coach.
Revels in the transfer portal. But the last thing I'll say about it is, here's what's funny. It makes you appreciate Mike Norvell a little bit from one point of view. Mike Norvell knows he's at Florida State. He knows the expectation. I promise everyone out there that he knows what he has to do the last couple games this season. He goes out there and owns what the failures have been, what the pros have been, and where he feels like we're going, and he doesn't go out there saying, play away, and we're not getting blown off the field at least, and
we don't have the facilities, and you name it.
Anything else, and he's out the gate.
Anything else that he would bring up that would be, an exterior reason why the team wasn't executing, because there was always something. Society.
So that's the last thing I said is, as I watched that press conference, which I really enjoyed watching, I mean, just tremendously enjoyed. And then I watched Mike Norvell's, press conference after Clemson, and you're like, just seems like you have a guy who's like not going to deflect blame. I'm the head coach. We can't make, in certain situations, which I want to get into about that before we get into Georgia Tech. Because I think the one thing, because our offensive stats, if you look at efficiency ratings and moving the ball, we're a really, really good offense as far as some of our stats are in top 10 or close to it.
Yeah.
But where we're getting killed is a situational, right? Like the NC State game you mentioned. We can get a first down there. We don't have to go for a touchdown.
Yeah. I mean, you would think that you keep playing with that kind of consistency situationally, yes, things aside, but you keep, being as efficient as you are, eventually it's going to turn into points and wins. And that's what we're hoping for. And you would think the pendulum would sway. And
yeah, you hope so.
You hope so. But don't you want to talk about Miami? I thought you wanted to talk about Miami too. Decided to give Duke an 8-piece on the turnover bucket.
Well, listen, I know it was a huge rivalry game for Miami, facing the Duke Blue Devils, who Florida State still never lost to. It's a toughie, I'm sure, for them to go into that game every year and just know that it's going to be heated, and it's going to be a hard fought victory, if at all. And I'm sure their 15 fans watching the game are probably very invested in that rivalry. But no, other than that, I don't have a whole lot to say. If you're looking from afar from our rivals, because I joke, but you kind of get the feeling that maybe early on, again, it's for year one for two coaches, right? So I'm not making any grandiose statements, but it does seem like Florida so far has some semblance of effort, and we're just not, we maybe don't have the horses, and maybe, AR is not the answer in quarterback, but there was a whole lot of quitting in that Duke game. And
for sure.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of old school Miami. Once you get past your third or fourth loss, we're done for the season, packing it in. And so I'm really, really, and we're going to talk about it next week for sure, I cannot wait to go down to my Doak Campbell South And I'm not going to give away my prediction, but I mean, everyone probably knows what it will be, win or loss from me. But I'm going to be pretty bullish on that score for Florida State. I think Miami. It's not like they don't have to play another game. So,
well, and that will be, it's a rivalry. So, and I know we're getting off on a tangent here, but that's a rivalry. So there is a chance, depending on how the beginning part of that game goes, will dictate how the rest of that game goes.
sure.
But if you can snuff out any sense of we're in this thing on their side, there's a whole lot of quitting going on, and that's been going on for over a decade. So our guys aren't going to quit. We know that. So recruiting wise, before we get into the game, though, you don't follow it, really in deep. Neither do I. But
I saw we lost an offensive lineman.
We did, but we knew, the people not you and me, the people that are following this knew that was probably going to happen. But on the flip side of that, though, Cedric Baxter, who was a commit to us, who decommitted and then committed to Texas, he was at the Clemson game, and he's coming back this weekend. So, I don't know what's going to happen there, but he'd be a good get. He's a Florida State fan, from the day he was born, and he's one of those ones where, we talked about this. If you just give some of these guys a reason to believe that you're on the right track, you can start scoring some of these guys to sign. He may be one of those. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. And Norvell took the helicopter out to see him. So there you go.
I mean, I would love that if Vince showed up with a helicopter in my yard asking me to come work back at our former place of, I might think about it.
Yeah, well, I probably won't be a helicopter. It'll probably be like a Razor scooter or something like that.
Actually, it would be a 12-passenger van, white van.
It would be a white van
with promise
with no
of
windows.
Free food.
With no windows. Oh, my goodness.
I've never been so excited for a Florida State Georgia Tech game. I'm gonna be honest with you. I really think that it's one of those things. Have you? I know you never played competitive sports, like as far as like, hey, let's play in college or something like that. I'm not saying you did, but you've played in the Marching Chiefs, so that's competitive, right?
It's competitive. It's competitive to get in, but we're not keeping score on how many notes I missed, which was a lot.
In high school, did you ever attend competitions, things like that?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. Imagine you had 3 competitions in a row, three in a row, and so you had to be buttoned up. You had to know, hey, these are going to be challenges, right? These are really going to be tough times. Well, that 4th week when you come back just to play a Friday night lights game for a home game, hey, it's good times, man. You got past the hard teams. That's how I feel about this Georgia Tech team. We've played close on Wake. We've played close on NC State. Should have beat NC State. We were up on them. And you play close to Clemson, who, hey, whatever you say about their performance, they're undefeated right now. Probably based on the rest of their schedule, we'll probably end up in the playoffs. So now we get to play Georgia Tech. So I feel like whenever that happens, when those offensive lines are used to going against Clemson, right? When those wide receivers and DBs are used to going against Wake Forest and Clemson, some of the best in our conference, as long as you do what you're supposed to do, which I have no doubt they are based on all the practice reports, we're getting healthier. We were locked in. I heard Jordan had a really good day of practice. This almost feels like a game that you should win by 2 or more touchdowns, just because if we competed at that high level on those teams, we should come out and beat the team that looked terrible. Georgia Tech looked terrible against Virginia.
Oh, that game was comical to watch. It was maybe one of the worst football games I've ever seen. And that's saying a lot.
So we should win this game convincingly. Do you agree? I mean, looking big picture.
Oh yeah. I believe that believe that's true. We should. But, we've had trouble putting a consistent success throughout the course of a whole game. If we do that, we're blowing this team out. But if we go into a lull, play some situations poorly, then this team can falter. This team can falter. The margin of error isn't as great as we want it to be.
This is not a game you screw around. This is a game you get out to that quick lead, and you don't even put it in. You want it to be out of the question by halftime. You want this to be Boston College, where we were up 21 or 28 to nothing, right? That's the kind of game you're hoping for, because if it was any more hope that Georgia Tech would have had to win, it would have been with Jeff Sims, and it doesn't sound like Jeff Sims is going to play.
Right.
And now they're saying they're going to play both quarterbacks, one of which has never played a collegiate game. So I don't imagine Georgia Tech has 5 stars just rolling off the bench in Atlanta right now. So,
well,
honestly,
and if
what you have to hope for is that, hey, our offense does what it does and scores, in the mid 30s, and our defense holds them to under 20, and we get out of there and feeling pretty good going into Miami. If that doesn't happen, and if by some chance Georgia Tech wins, you're going to start hearing things that you don't want to hear. And then we start, if it happens 2 weeks in a row, I mean, if you look really negative and say we lose the next 2 games in a row, Mike Norvell might not be long here. And I don't want that to happen. I like Mike Norvell, and I like the offensive system, and I like what he's done. Definitely have improved, but you got to win.
Yeah, you've got to win the games that are played in front of you that you should win, right? The NC State game, people probably, before the game, I don't even think I picked us to win that game, but people didn't think we were going to win that game. The Georgia Tech game, the spread's like 24 points. And that's for a lot of reasons, right? The coaching staff, the coach got fired, and they had a little momentum when the interim came in, but eventually, you only have who you have as far as the players are concerned. And then the one spark that you had, Jeff Sims, is hobbled at the least, and maybe out, right? And he wasn't having a stellar year anyway, but they were able to piece a few wins together. You've got to go win this game. And, I can tell you that me as a fan, I don't care what the score is if we win this game, as long as we win. But there are plenty of other fans out there that the score is going to matter to them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's unfortunate, because we should all just enjoy the wins. But yeah, I mean, there's a really good chance here to put up some numbers, get some guys in the game that don't get to play much, but you got to take care of business from the get-go. You can't be messing around at the beginning of the game. Put it on them and make sure they understand that you're keeping them at arm's length from the very beginning of the game.
All of us want to go into next week and say we're one game away from bowl eligibility. We all want to do that, because I'll tell you this, it's the little things after you've had a couple rough seasons. You know how good it will be to say we have 3 games left and we're already bowl eligible.
Oh yeah.
And last year and the last couple years, where it's pretty much come down to the Florida game, like, please, maybe we can win this game, and it hasn't gone our way. And even when it did, then we got blown out in the bowl game. But it's just one of those things, like, it would feel really nice. I think if you win the next 2 games, coming off that, if you beat Georgia Tech and then beat Miami, coming off that Miami game, you will feel pretty good. You'll say, listen, last year we were here at this point, and this year we're here. And that will be about a 3-game swing, or 3 to 4 game swing, based on our record at that point last year and this year. So the deniers would not be able to deny improvement. What can't happen is you lose to Georgia Tech, because then you're saying, okay, well, at this point in the season, we actually were almost one game short of the same record, even though they're very different seasons, right? So you just have to beat who you're supposed to beat the rest of the schedule. I honestly look at it, and I think the only team that even worries me is Syracuse. I mean, I've watched more Florida games than I care to admit this year. And pretty much the Utah game was the only game I was like, wow, look at them. And that was the first game of the year. Ever since then, they've been doing a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah. I mean, the schedule, the remaining schedule lays out nice for us, but we got to go out and do it. We got to go out and do it. And the difference, like the reason why I think we're going to do it in, at least 4 of these games is because our team is playing in a more consistently than the rest of the teams that we are scheduled to play. This team is not going to quit, and they're going to have some consistency. If we can just reduce some of the situational stuff, then I think we really have a shot at going 5-0. But I'm more leaning toward the 4-1,
which would give you your exact record you predicted.
Yeah.
And would that 4-1 currently, based on your current predictions, would that include wins against Miami and Florida?
Yes, it would.
So
the Syracuse game
how
is the
our
one.
fans are.
Yeah.
Beating your rivals can make you feel a lot better than the record.
Sure.
I mean,
hey,
you seeing your friends every week for the next year and saying, hey, suck it, we won. It feels good.
Yeah. If you're not winning the title, which we're not, the next best thing is having 365 days to, for silence from the rivals. That's the next best thing. You could say ACC titles and everything like that, and I get it, but exactly. I mean, that's the next best thing. So, yeah, I think that those would be wins. Syracuse would be the one that I would look at and say that's a possible loss for sure.
Let's talk about
look at them. Look at them, right? They've quite the year nobody expected.
Our first nooner, Vince.
How about it?
You would expect, based on our record, we would have had many nooners, but for whatever reason, they sure do love putting us at 8 o'clock, including next week against Miami, which really, Vince, did you see the college football slate in general for 8 p.m. last week and wonder how the heck we're in the 8 p.m. slot? Did you look?
Yes, I know. There's a lot of great games in prime time. Now, Clemson, Notre Dame is on NBC, so that helps, right? But people say this all the time. The logo holds weight, man. And
I mean, next week's game had 3:30 written all over it.
Even though we've not been great, and even though Miami's been less than we have been, those helmets playing against each other is must-see TV. It is, and it's not just must-see TV for us. Like the country watches that game. So putting that on prime time, I was surprised about that too. So this weekend's a nooner. If you are going to the game, we're actually going to be in a different lot this week. We're going to be in lot 7, tailgating there. When lot 7 is right next to Chiefs Field. And we're going to do a little breakfast tailgate there. So we're right there for Skull Session when the Chiefs have Skull Session. Skull Session is usually 2 hours, 2 hours, 15 minutes before the game. So we won't have to break down so fast. And then the game's at noon. And then, Brian, you and I were talking about even doing some tailgating after the game as well.
We sure have. I think it'll be a nice day. First of all, the weather has shifted a tad. Mm-hmm. It's going to be one of those overcast, cool days, which I'm all for. I'll take 79 degrees overcast for a nooner any day over 98 degrees and, sweating the entire game. So we've actually had a really nice October, by the way, so far. We've gotten, the temperatures have been every single day I go outside. I'm like, what are we doing here? This is fantastic. But early morning for all of you that are going to the game, it's supposed to be overcast, but not raining yet. The rain will be light that night. So I think we're going to get through the whole game. Maybe, if anything, maybe a drizzle here and there, but I don't mind a nice overcast 79-degree game. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I'm all for it. Overcast is great. We've had a lot of night games, but they haven't necessarily been, cool. There's been some humid nights, but overcast, noon game, and then some time to hang out after the game. Yeah, we haven't really had a chance to do that, so I'm looking forward to it.
People with our issue here
Yeah,
really appreciate overcast games, do we not?
we do. Ryan, we're having a problem here. We're getting some chat, but I'm not seeing it here in the broadcast software. So I'm just going to read this off real quick. So
Do it.
Gabby said no one likes a double dipper. That goes back to the Jimbo comment. So John's a frequent watcher. Can't engage too much tonight, but 42-20 Florida State. I'm skeptical about Syracuse. Other than that, we went out.
Gabby donating $400 to Garnet Old. Thank you so much, Gabby.
Thank you, Gabby. Philip Dugas, 8 p.m. home game in South Florida. Exactly. It's an 8 p.m. home game in South Florida. The majority of the fans you're going to see in that game are going to be Florida State fans. So.
And this has Miami booing and throwing trash from the field more than any other game. Like if it's halftime and the score is 21-0, Florida State, you're going to hear Miami fans booing and there will be pieces of paper flying onto the field.
Oh, yeah. Looking forward to that. What else we got here? Let me see. Oh, I probably just do predictions.
Yeah.
And just wrap it up.
48-10, Florida State dominates. I think this will be very, very similar to the Boston College game. I don't think they'll be able to move the ball at all. Like, especially, I imagine if it was us, right, and we were rolling out Tate Rodemaker in this game, even though he had a good moment a few games back, we were playing anyone with a pulse. If we were playing Wake Forest with Tate Rodemaker, I'd probably be a little nervous, or even worse, if it was AJ Duffy as his first college start playing against Clemson, I'd be like, oh, well, this should be interesting. So I can imagine what a Georgia Tech fan would feel. And even if Jeff Sims plays, he won't be fully Jeff Sims. Half his ability is how good he is on the ground, and with a bum ankle, you're not going to be able to really be too effective. So if let's say if Jeff Sims was 100% healthy, I would have picked somewhere like 35-21. But with the injury, I think we get up early, and then I think Georgia Tech kind of just almost just kind of starts putting a lot of second and third stringers in by the fourth quarter. I think it'll be a mirror image of the Boston College game.
Yeah. More comments here. Sorry they're not on the screen. I don't know what's going on.
Everyone's donating so much money tonight. Thank you so much for everyone's generosity.
What do you think of 3-2 finish with wins over Miami and UF? Huge disappointment.
Massive.
Yeah, I'm thinking 4-1 is where I'm going to go. A 3-2 would be a lot of wasted opportunity there. So, and hello, Matthew.
Yeah, I don't think
Matthew's watching
with a 4-0 start. No one's going to be like, oh boy, 7-6. What a great year. So
yeah,
4-1 gets you that nice 8 just feels good. It's so funny. You look on our history in the last 20 years, we've had a lot of either 9, 10, or 12, and a lot of 6 or 7s. We actually haven't gotten 8 too often. So it's almost like we either get the over or the under. So you want to shoot for the over so that we end up at 8. But anything less than that would be an absolute disappointment. And I think there would be some talks on the offseason.
Yeah. I don't know. It would take a pretty monumental collapse for there to be talks for this year, but that's my opinion. What was your score again? I want to make sure I get this down.
45. I think it was 45-10 or 48. Sorry, 48-10 was my score.
Okay. And I was going to go 35-14 because I just I don't have a lot of confidence that this team is going to cover a spread. But I think I'm going to change my mind on that because our last comment we just got in was from a very positive person that I know. Shannon says, I think Fitzgerald gets his groove back this week in time for the Miami game. And because she posted that, I am going to bump my score to 38-10 or 38-14, which is going to put us right at the spread.
Does the whole team rush the field and hug him again when he makes it?
I think we're going to storm the field. We're going to tear down the goalposts.
Yeah.
And we're going to throw them in Lake Ella.
One thing I want to ask you about, because we know it will be by the Florida game, because we only have 2. It's crazy how fast the year goes by. We only have 2 home games after this left. I want, for that Louisiana game, give me 62 degrees and clear, crystal blue skies. One game a year I like to have that day where you walk out and it's a new.
You got to wear chapstick on that day,
and you maybe have a hoodie on, and you look out and it's just that crystal, absolute dark blue sky. And it happens once every year, and we just get lucky like that. And I just want it. I want it so bad.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But Ryan, one game at a time, brother.
Trust the process. It's not like we're getting
look for the crumbs.
Run off the field.
Look for the crumbs. This has been a great.
Is it Mubabu?
This has been a good comeback show for you, Ryan. Back from the depths, and we're back in the groove. Remember, folks, 4-3, but we're still on track. We're still on track for a significantly better season, and that's the way we need to think about it.
There's one quick note on Florida State in general I want to say, and that is, no matter how much you believe in this coaching staff or don't believe in this coaching staff, wherever you fall on that, is undeniable. Play by play, we are better than we've been in 5 years. So no matter where our record is, I want to remind people, if you go back and watch any of our wins from the last 3 years that were against anyone, it was, we got lucky, we came back, it was like skin of our teeth, that we should have lost the game and we didn't. This year, we are winning games. The product looks better. So let's just be patient and let's keep our calm and stick with the plan every single week. Because I don't think the right answer is to start over. The right answer is to keep building.
Yeah, it's not the right answer. And we both said that we like Norvell. We're not sure if he's the guy to take us to the mountaintop, but he's definitely the guy to get us to the base camp. The base camp, higher and higher on the mountain. Almost news I
would have been so mad if we had forgot to talk about, and this is a quick one. Alex Atkins is rumored to be the leading candidate for the Charlotte head coaching job. Mm-hmm. So, Vince, this is a question for you. Mm-hmm. Is it wiser, let's say wiser, for Alex Atkins to take his first head coaching job and go back to a team in which he took them to their first bowl game as the offensive line and coordinator there, and take a head coaching job, which is, every assistant coach wants to be a head coach eventually. Most of them do. Or if you're Alex Atkins, put yourself in his shoes. Do you finish the job here and get to a point where maybe you get 10, 11 win season and you get a head coaching job maybe at somewhere like USF or UCF or Arizona State, a step up school, or do you take Charlotte? What is your honest answer, and what do you think he would do?
This is bonus content on Garnet Old. Not taking the fan glasses off from a career trajectory standpoint. I don't know that he gains anything by taking that job. Aside from he's the head guy. And I know that all those guys want to be that, but if you're patient and the way things are going right it gets greater later, right? So if he puts together the class that he's putting together, Lucas Simmons and these other guys that are coming in and start and developing these young guys, I mean, the job offers he's going to get are going to be much greater than this. So the question is whether he can, if he's patient enough, and it's different for everyone. But me personally, if things are going the way they're going, and I like where I'm at, and I get along with the staff, and I have input, then I am driving that until it's time. I'm finishing that job before I move. And I think that I think that he'll do that, but you never know. That's what I would do.
It feels a year too early, in my opinion. And if by some absolute impossible chance that Mr. Alex Atkins is watching Garnet Old podcast, maybe he's a subscriber, like the
chances are
hundreds of others of you that are.
Chances
I
are
would tell him to go
good.
on YouTube right now. I want him to go to YouTube and Alex, just type in Walt Bell UMass and just watch for an hour or two. I really don't want him. I want the best for Alex Atkins. And here's the thing. I want him to leave Florida State someday and get a head coaching job. But not for Charlotte. No one's going to be like, man, look at that.
Do you blame Walt Bell for leaving?
So Walt Bell did
that's another
Willie Taggart.
I don't blame him for that.
There are lessons to be learned from that.
Yeah, for sure.
You can leave a really good organization and you can put a CEO of the next company that you go to. That company can be awful, and it can lead to you having a black stain on your record because it didn't look like you did well when really it was someplace that would never have worked. I just want Alex Atkins to get one of those jobs where in the Power 5 where he can flex his muscles a little bit more.
And there's just no reason to jump off this ship yet. I mean, this thing, while the trajectory isn't that steep, it's climbing. Hey, it's climbing, Ryan. It's climbing, and it's not time to jump off yet. Another year, maybe 2, and you really see this line solidify, and he puts more of a stamp on the offense itself. And then I want to say you're writing your own ticket, but in a way, because there are always good jobs that come up every year. There are always good jobs that come up every year.
Awesome. Well, I think it was a really, really solid podcast, and appreciate everyone who decided to watch along live. And tell your friends about our podcast, available on all podcast networks and on YouTube. We really appreciate it. And for any of you that are interested in coming to see us in Lot 7, come on by. We might have some leftover koozies still available. So come see us. Maybe you'll get a little swag for a gift.
Yeah, I would love to see everybody there, either before the game or after. How about that?
Yeah, we might have some
treats. That's what
we might have some donuts or sweets.
But this has been Garnet and Old, the comeback show for Ryan. No inside info, no contacts, no problem.
Go Noles and have a great weekend, everyone. See you on Saturday.
Go Noles.